So, watching this Meaning Crisis series up till now, just these first two episodes, I thought I'd share a couple of thoughts for whatever it's worth. Um, I, in my own exploration and seeking of better and worse ways of existing in the world, and what is the thing to do in relationship to others, if anything, is I found certain staple frames quite valuable that, when implemented, are quite edifying and allow me to exist more edifyingly, I guess, with myself and with others. And so I think we're at a phase where, because we've kind of gone beyond this kind of authority-based morality of, all right, well, just take this guy's word for it, whether it was Jesus or Buddha or whoever it was. And we kind of overcorrected and we're like, all right, well, there's no better way to exist. It's all relative. Well, even if it is in fact all relative, could one simply establish that there is in fact a distribution of better and worse ways of being? You can just plot out 10 or 15 ways of being and say, are they all equal? Well, this guy's hurting other people as a way of being. This person's optimizing for the well-being of everyone. Are those on par with one another? What are the consequences of saying yes to that? And what are the consequences of saying no to that? And so you can still have something of a relativistic way of seeing the world and still recognize, if I simply establish that there are dynamics that I'm swimming in and that there are in fact better and worse ways of navigating those dynamics, not from some authoritarianly derived, value set, but just through my experience. I came into contact with this myself through Groundhog Day, seeing the kind of hero's journey that Bill Murray went through in that movie, where he was operating very selfishly at the beginning, and through sheer necessity, he was forced to confront the fact that that is in fact not a very fulfilling way to be existing in relationship to others in his immediate surroundings and community. And by the end of the movie, he has, again, through sheer necessity, been forced to experiment with and hone in upon a different way of existing in relationship to others that is in fact more fulfilling for himself and for others. And you could say, if you interviewed him and say, all right, well, what truths have you found that you're going to carry with you in terms of the way that you're going to behave? He would describe it maybe with different words based on his experience than someone else might describe it. And so you could start by just taking some stated truth by some spiritual authority figure. But I've recognized for myself that only gets you so far. Those are great training wheels to eventually having to discover those truths for yourself without having to rely upon some authority figure. And so in the same way as calculus was discovered independently of another, I don't know if it was the 17th or 18th century, but the phenomenon of calculus was a mutually discoverable phenomenon from multiple different mathematicians. And so if there's any reality behind calculus, where calculus is just a really useful map of the terrain, better than other maps, then in the same way, ways of being, morality, ethics, you could say, all right, well, if there's any underlying truth to this at all, we'll find similar conclusions just using different language. We'll find better maps of that terrain than others. That a map of the terrain that involves simply taking advantage of others or even maybe hurting others, you try that on for size and it's just not going to be as a fulfilling way of being as opposed to optimizing for the well-being of others and yourself. And so it's simply through trial and error that you can find the same truths for yourself, which are going to be far more richly felt and integrated than just taking someone else's word for it. And so as I've tried to work this out and discussed it with others, including Brendan, it's just, all right, well, what do you do now? Well, if you want to then facilitate those recognitions in others, if you want to teach this in any capacity without relying upon some kind of authority dynamic, you just encourage the playful exploration and experimentation of, are there in fact better ways of being? Try that on for size. Whatever way you have been behaving, experiment with some other ones and see which one fits best, in terms of how fulfilling it is to operate that way in the world, as opposed to a different way of operating in the world. Are you discovering any truths? Because some of these fundamental truths, whether it's the interconnectedness of all beings, or the golden rule, or the Tao that's spoken is not the Tao. Lately, I'm kind of discovering one for myself, that the puzzle is the point, that the difficulties I'm running into are features, not bugs. But these are truths that others might arrive at independently using completely different language. But the underlying recognition is kind of the same. And you could say, oh, that's what the Buddha described, or that's what Jesus described. Wonderful. If you've described a similar truth by yourself, that's probably going to soak in and be better integrated than just taking someone else's word for it, whoever it is. And so these are just my thoughts on the matter, and hopefully they're valuable, and maybe I'll share more as time goes on. But I'm just loving the series on the meaning crisis, and thought I'd share my 2 cents for what it's worth.